Hello and welcome to our Christmas edition of our podcast. It's very early in December if you're not watching this on Christmas Eve. However, it is traditional to be festive, and this is the last of our podcasts of 2025. So I at least have entered into the spirit of things with my
I did not
introduction.
get the memo. Let
You
the
didn't
record
get the memo. That's
show
that's
that
true,
I
and you
did
have been
not get the
travelling a
memo.
lot. So
Quite
I'm
right.
Paul Skeldon, the editor-in-chief at World Telemedia, and I'm joined by Anzelle Robertson, our head of strategy at World Telemedia. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks. And I'll be sure to dress up next year for the Christmas edition. Uh,
Absolutely. Well, we've got Easter before that. We'll do an Easter special
exactly.
with ears and everything. So yes. So while I try to not be too distracting and feel slightly foolish for being so festive, we're going to crack on with the vodcast. We are focusing today really on Africa and the opportunities in Africa because we made a big announcement, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks ago now that we're teaming up with WASPA in South Africa to run or Telemedia Johannesburg, which is excellent news. And I think a sort of really sort of important step for us. Ansel, you were sort of fairly pivotal in making that happen. Just tell us a bit about sort of what the deal is and what the event's going
Yeah,
to
exactly.
deliver to people.
Happy to, Paul. So, as you know, WASPA this year celebrated its 21st year in existence. WASPA, of course, being a membership organization, um, it hosts an annual general meeting. So it annually hosts a general meeting for its members. Um, but it's important to bear in mind that no less than half of WASPA's, I believe it's 201 members, are actually not based in South Africa because any organization looking to conduct business within the digital content, mobile billing, ecosystem within the country has to be a WASPA members. That is by virtue of the M&O codes of practice or their contracts actually. And also WASPA's constitution. So the result is that half of its members are based abroad. Now, for many digital content service providers, the sheer investment in sending a representative to South Africa once a year to attend solely a regulator general meeting, which has to, again, in line with WASPA's constitution, tick many administrative boxes. You know, during the general meeting, they would do their annual finance report, they would do their annual operations report, which is all things that are very important. But does a half-day event like that justify me as an internationally based organization sending a representative to spend the day in South Africa? This is a question WASPA had been asking itself for a couple of years. And I think it was 2, 3 years ago, they started their very successful sports day to just beefing
Mm.
up their annual general meeting a bit. Um, but again, then you would have international organizations looking at this and going, well, okay, you've got this half a day very admin sort of focused general meeting. And then you've got a day where you're playing golf and lawn bowls, and networking in the Johannesburg sun. Again, does that justify my company's investment in sending a representative? Now, WASPA, on the one hand, having painted this picture, had not a problem to solve, but it's part of WASPA's goals and it's part of its own strategic direction to attract not only more of its members to its physical meetings, but secondly, to add more value to its members because comparable to other markets, other geos, WASPA, the fees are not, they're not inconsiderable, right? So WASPA really want to do more, to add more value, put more meat on its own bones for its members. One way to do so, and this is where the idea was born, and this is what the partnership now results in, is by partnering with World Telemedia, who of course has 25, 30 years experience in putting together events specifically aimed at the direct carrier billing, digital content, etc. industries, by bringing a Telemedia Africa, in other words, Telemedia Johannesburg event to the continent and allowing that event to host within its agenda, within its 2-day program. Sorry, welcome to Africa. That's our Hardy-do birds. Um, to host within its 2-day agenda the WASPA annual general meeting. Immediately, what you're doing is you're giving international WASPA members a lot more value, a lot more justification for making that trip to Johannesburg. Because now, what do you have? You have 2 days worth of knowledge sharing, thought leadership, panel conversations. The teams, so in other words, us as World Telemedia, but also WASPA, are looking at what type of workshops can we be hosting, things that are really sort of topical currently. I know the conversation around advertising, Google RDAs has come up, so that's one avenue we might look at. So now there's this 2-day actual thought leadership subject matter conference taking place with an exhibition alongside it, with an opportunity for not only WASPA's members, but also other organizations that aren't necessarily digital content providers, but are related service providers. Think of the anti-fraud guys, think of the advertising guys, to showcase their products to not only this South African, but actually Southern African, Sub-Saharan African contingent in, of course, the continent's economic hub, which is Johannesburg,
Mm,
right? So there will be a focus on mobile money as well. There will be a focus on the other sort of key telemedia markets in the region, thinking here of Kenya, thinking here of Ghana, thinking here of Nigeria, of course. So again, it's a first time event. As World Telemedia, we're very excited. WASPA is very excited, and of course, staying true to the original roots of WASPA's Sports Day. That's also been incorporated into the
mm.
event. So day 2 and 3, we'll see us. Day 1 and 2, pardon me, we'll see us doing. This 2-day conference with exhibition, and day 3 we'll see all the delegates rolling into this sports day, which is really a great form of networking. It's just different than doing this, working the room, with your drink in your hand and chatting here, chatting there, by virtue of being teamed up with your M&O partners, with your service delivery providers, and then actually, yeah, it's almost more team building than it is networking, and that I think that lands very well. So that is the first week of June 2026. It would be great if our viewers can bookmark those dates.
Mm.
And of course, we're already having conversations with many interested parties in their presence. So sponsorship, exhibition opportunities, these are being crafted as we speak, but there's no time that's too soon or too early to get in touch with us about involvement.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a really sort of interesting time to launch it because there's such a lot going on in the sort of African market. I mean, we've covered Africa for many years and sort of looking back through the stuff we've done, even just sort of in the last 5 years, it's really come on in leaps and bounds. And I think what was particularly interesting a couple of weeks ago was that Vodafone put out its half-year annual results, and while as an overall company, it saw its profits fall a little bit because all network operators are struggling with sort of the commoditization of messaging and all the rest of it. It singled out as one of its headline sort of topics the fact that growth in Africa was really pushing the company forward. That was what it saw as its sort of really developing market right now. That's where a lot of interest and
Yeah.
attention at Vodafone has been placed. And equally, actually, this morning, Vodafone Group announced that Vodacom, the sort of African
Yeah.
subsidiary, has upped its stake in
The
Safaricom now.
Johannesburg-based also subsidiary, I believe.
Yeah, I believe Vodacom is
Vodacom is Johannesburg based. Yeah.
yeah, it's a sort of it's the African subsidiary of
Yeah.
the overall Vodafone group, but they've
Yeah.
upped their stake in Safaricom to 55%. So they now have a controlling stake in
Oh, well.
Safaricom. I think sort of largely it's been pushed by wanting to get in on the action on M-Pesa. I would aver. It's certainly mentioned quite frequently in their sort of press release they put out about this deal. But
Well, I think Paul, that there would be a number of stakeholders within our sort of DCB and a digital content community that would be looking at this move closely because
Mm,
Kenya and specifically Safaricom from a direct carrier billing point of view, it only very recently, by very recently, I mean a couple of years ago, moved to an actual sort of click flow acquisition
mm,
setup where that was possible, and also then not for all. It doesn't have or it didn't until recently have, the sort of robustness that we would see in Vodacom South Africa. Vodacom South Africa, well known for its direct carrier billing, revenue generation
mm,
capabilities, the high ARPUs, and of course, Safaricom being the largest operator in Kenya, seeing perhaps Vodacom South Africa now introducing its billing infrastructure, its flows, its proof of concepts around, own hosted one-click flows, for example, in Kenya via the
mm.
controlling stake in Safaricom. I'm sure there would be a number of stakeholders in the region that would, be keeping a keen eye on that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was going to go on to say is that I think it's eyeing the revenue potential and the customer interaction with M-Pesa. However, it is also looking at how it can expand carrier billing across the Kenya market. I did an interview with Jason from M-Pesa
That's right. Yeah.
a couple of months back where he was talking about the role carrier billing could play in the whole sort of payment for content and services. And I think that whole market, as you say, is huge in these other markets. Nigeria, a lot of interest as well in Ethiopia is appearing more and more in the stuff I'm looking at
That's
about
right.
sub-Saharan Africa. That it's a very nascent market, but it's one that's coming along. And I think this move by Vodacom is, yeah, as you say, it's like indicative of how it sees now this huge potential, this huge opportunity, not just in South Africa, but that whole sub-Saharan African region, which of course is, partly why our event is so well timed. I mean,
And and now that you're just making my neurons fire a bit as you say that, um, something that Ant Brooks of WASPA pointed out on our panel conversation at the MEF event in Cape Town. This conversation was about, WASPA as a self-regulator, was how WASPA came to be all those many 21 years ago. And that was the MNOs. So at the time, Vodacom, MTN, Cell C sitting down with the key sort of aggregators and going, we are going to establish, this framework for self-regulator. Now, we
mm,
know that something like that doesn't exist currently in Kenya, and it would be interesting to see if perhaps, again, via Vodacom South Africa, a concept like that might be introduced. Because if we are going to listen to what, Jason Masai of M-Pesa is saying, which is DCB actually can play a very complementary role to
mm,
M-Pesa, which is so well ingrained as a payment method there for digital content, um, then it would be interesting to see whether, Vodacom would be keen to raise a hand and go, okay, guys, well, have a look at how this was done in South Africa 21 years ago in terms of establishing a
mm.
self-regulator that could actually create, sort of healthy and sustainable landscape for this to grow. Because without it, of course, it's going to be difficult, and of course, it's going to be, open to more potential
Mm.
abuse.
Yeah, that's an interesting sort of side of it, isn't it? The regulatory side, because WASPA has done an amazing job, really, of making self-regulation work. I mean, it's one of the sort of few examples where self-regulation actually has achieved sort of overall positive outcome. Be interested to see how as these other markets expand and sort of develop more around these sort of value-added and telemedia services, where regulation goes, because a lot has happened to sort of stabilize that environment in a lot of these markets. It's way more compliant than it ever was before. And we reported, I think you and I talked about it on a previous podcast about MCP now working with WASPA to sort of, cement that. I think that sort of those sort of relationships will expand, won't they, across these other countries? But it'd be interesting to see sort of what then happens, yes, with regulation in that region. Um,
Yeah, no, I think this is already, I'll be sure to make a note after this call, but I think this could be a very interesting panel conversation or a workshop or maybe just a sort of maybe just a presentation from my side at Telemedia Johannesburg in June next year, um, looking at things like, okay, we have WASPA as this model, but there actually used to be a WASPA with the G at the end, which was literally
mm,
WASPA Ghana. Which, as far as I know, is not active anymore. But it did have a code of conduct, which was, for all intents and purposes, a copy and paste of the South African WASPA's
mm.
code. I know that there's been talk in the past about a WASPAN, which,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, would be Nigeria. Um, of course, a lot happening in Nigeria currently also on the MVNO space, and all MVNOs would also be looking to offer content to their subscribers to consume via mobile. So maybe a conversation around, the potential self-regulatory landscapes for each of these, or even a potential maybe sort of regional
Regional regulator. Yeah.
regulators. I mean, this could definitely be an interesting topic for Telemedia Johannesburg.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of sort of speaking at events, you took part in the MTM's event, didn't you, in Cape Town, which that
Yes.
threw up some interesting things. I mean, I wasn't there, but you did tell me all about it, and we did publish some stuff around what.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So
so
I,
tell
I
us a
was
bit about
I
what
was
happened
I was
there.
I was very happy to get an invitation from Oreratile Tumeleng, who's part of the digital team at MTN South Africa. Um, I think they're now into their second or third year of hosting their Partner Connect event, which they
Mm.
do alongside the festival previously known as AfricaCom. Um, and it's really a moment for MTN to get together with their partners, predominantly their digital content service provider partners, but also some others, billing partners, master aggregators, etc. And to really do a sort of bit of a year in review. Something that came up, and I mean the summary of what happened in that evening, the key topics that came out from John Hule, from Buraka Kenshi, and the guys at MTN. Those were very, very well covered by your article, Paul, which I believe is now on
It
the
is live. Yep, a link will appear
homepage.
below this for those
Okay, the link
watching.
will appear below here. So if anyone wants to see the perfect summary of what was happened or what happened that night, it's there. But another thing that I think to me was a key takeout, if I could add to that,
Mm.
was at some point there was this closing question on the panel that I formed part of, and it was what's one thing that MTN could do better? And here and my response to that question was, well, you guys, we're literally sitting here in a room as all your partners of MTN, and you, as the MNR, are asking your partners, what can you do better? Like, you've already nailed it. Like, that's
Mm.
the only thing you can ever do better is just more of that. And this is really where I think MTN are getting it absolutely right. And when they're spot on, I mean, of course, there's a lot of talk. Those who know the South African market well, or who operate in it will say, yeah, okay, billing success rates not always great. Our one pin conversion rates not what they used to be, etc., etc. Of course, there's little nuanced problems or little things that bother. But taking a step back, MTN are listening. MTN are opening their doors. MTN are saying, let's sit down with our partners and see how we can, do this better. So that's something I think that many other MNOs can take a page out of MTN's book, in terms of just the open door policy really that they have towards their partners, and in a way, giving something very small back by having this Partner Connect event once a
Mm.
year. So of course,
What I thought was interesting from it was on a sort of larger sort of scale, this view that there are still quite a lot of unconnected people in Africa. The average, according to the International Telecoms Union, is that 38% of Africans now, obviously that's a big region and a very broad statement, but only about 38% are online. So there's still sort of scope for a lot more connection. And I think sort of that Barack's point that Africa though is not waiting for the future, it's building it.
I
Uh,
love that.
as a standout quote. And I think, yeah, I love it too. You think actually, yes, this is what we want to hear. Yes, there's work to be done. Yes, more people need to be connected, but that's going to happen really quickly, and that those people are going to drive this market to huge heights. So,
Absolutely. I mean, every moment of every day, there's someone on this continent that's picking up a smartphone for the
yeah,
first time. That up until very recently was only transacting via USSD, or only
mm,
transacting via feature phone. So it's up to us as the greater ecosystem to not only ensure that those consumers have access to, all that is to offer. Another thing Burak said, and I think he was absolutely right, he said MTN hopes to be a gateway to
mm,
digital inclusion, to financial inclusion. Now, what is a gateway? It's a place where people pass through.
yeah,
And this is exactly where that analogy comes in. It's passing through my past where I've only been interacting via my feature phone, paying via USSD, into now a place where I can use carrier billing, I can have a mobile wallet, I can
mm.
subscribe to streaming services, educational services, etc. This gateway to inclusion. Um, so yes, you're right. That's absolutely going
But
to
I think
be.
it's a brilliant it's a brilliant opportunity to see in action the model of network operators, you say, being these gateways or essentially super apps or however you want to sort of reference it, that they aren't just sort of giving you calls and minutes and messages and things. They are actually giving you the ability to pay for anything, to, as you say, stream and be entertained, educated, all that, to pay your bills, to book, taxis, to just do absolutely everything. And I think in enabling that, you suddenly make the much wider economy much more active, and it's in a way it's its own sort of economic generator
Yeah,
for all the people. It's and
yeah.
here I think in the West we don't see network operators in that light. Whereas in Africa, I think there is this golden opportunity
No, I
for
think I
operators
think
to
it's
really seal their place in this.
I won't, lest we get, a letter from someone's law firm, name them by name. But, I'm just back from a month in Europe in the UK, and I have a SIM card that is still associated with one of the Dutch MNOs, and I love the Dutch MNOs, but it's a service provider, right? It's no different than
Mm,
my energy bill provider or my whatever. But I think there's an inherent trust in my MNO that exists in especially the more developing parts or
mm,
communities within Africa that doesn't necessarily, certainly doesn't exist in the developed world. So the reason being, I'm familiar with the MTN brand. I'm familiar with the Vodacom brand. I've been going to MTN agents, to Vodacom agents, to Telkom
mm,
agents to top up my feature phone ever since I've had one or first got one, 5 or 10 years ago. I know I'm topping up my airtime. I know I'm seeing Vodacom's logo. I know I'm seeing MTN's logo. And over time, this trust relationship has been built. So now, when I'm picking up the smartphone for the first time, seeing my operator logo, being able to transact within the super app, which is literally the home of my
mm.
MNO of a brand that I now already trust, I think maybe it just helps that little bit in terms of digital peace of mind, because it might be a bit intimidating for many consumers, having this uh, universe of
Yeah.
content and possibilities available overnight that I didn't have, the night before.
Mm. I look forward, yes, I mean, I look forward to this sort of model being replicated elsewhere in Africa. I think it is, yeah, a really interesting market and a really interesting time, and I can't wait to really sort of get stuck into it and meet the people behind it. So that's coming up in June. Before that, however, we have two other events. The first of which is in Barcelona, naturally, with Mobile World Congress coming up. So that's happening 1st of March, I believe.
That's right. So Sunday first, Monday the second. Um, there's a networking event the evening on Sunday first, but more importantly, or not more importantly, equally importantly, invitations have gone out to 48 individuals in the telemedia ecosystem for the director's lunch, which this year will be an offsite mini event. So these 48 absolute C-level or director or even founder, co-founder level individuals will travel off-site for a more sort of intimate afternoon together. And really the thinking was, before the absolute chaos, proverbial all hell breaks loose come Sunday night and people go into multiple days of this bustling
Mm,
town, because I mean the whole city just becomes all things mobile, right, for the week, is to just give these individuals and really these they will laugh if I call them that, but visionaries, because I think the sum total of the conversations that will happen on that bus and at that event, will certainly include visions of the
mm,
future, and these will, of course, be among some of them being competitors, but in the end, the 48 of them form, I believe, sort of the head that turns the shoulder of the DCB, the global, actually, direct carrier billing and digital content service providers industry. So we have seen the invitations went out, I think, 2 weeks ago. We've seen quite a number of them already confirm. So I'm very excited about this event. And of course, then Monday the 2nd is Telemedia Barcelona, which
mm,
uh, people that are listening might recall as the event previously known as 8.1. But in streamlining our suite of events and streamlining our portfolio of events throughout the calendar year and throughout the world, we've gone to rebranding as Telemedia Barcelona. And what Telemedia Barcelona really is all about efficiency. Before everyone scatters, before everyone goes into the vast and endless halls of the Fira, and to all the other things that are happening and occurring during the course of that week. I know MEF do a couple of great things. I know the Financial Times does a couple of great things surrounding mobile services. But this is really the place to kickstart that week by all meeting under one roof. And it's really about the efficiency where I can have my meeting with my existing partner here and then turn around and meet, the next person so
mm.
right next to me. So it's really a day about a day of efficiency,
It is,
and
yeah.
in a central location that's very easy to get to.
Yeah, no, it's all about meetings, all about networking, all about sort of bringing people together. And of course, that kicks off our, as you say, suite of events across 2026, which include
That's right, and I think as I was checking the website this morning, thank you to Creative Clicks and to Sam Media that have stepped up as platinum sponsor
absolutely.
of Telemedia.
Absolutely. I'm sure other sponsorship opportunities are still available for those of you feeling you want to get involved, and you should do. It's a great profile and it's a great event, as are all the others, but we will talk about those more in the year ahead. So it just remains really to say thank you to everyone who's listened throughout the year. To wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. To thank you, Anzelle, for taking part today and for all your hard work in getting all this looking so slick and professional. And we'll see you all in the new year. So, yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year,
Thank you, Paul, and a
Happy
happy holidays
telemeeting.
and a Merry Christmas to everyone. And I sure know that we'll be kickstarting the new year with a lot more to come. There's a lot of exciting things on the cards. Christmas
Absolutely.
morning.
Back with a bang in January. So we'll see you all then. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.